So I guess I finally gotten to this place where I've kind of like understood that like most people are paying for things like at an instance. Like every single instance is technically like worth something. And like as you move forward in your job and in your life, like it isn't free. You know what I mean? Like you are in a place that you've earned. And like if you're not there, like someone else could be there who had like earned the space. And so just being in a place where you're like, I am going to work each day and like earning this space is worth something. I mean, I guess I like understood that before, but I just didn't take it as like the thing. Like you get to a space in adulthood where you realize like that is the thing. You know what I mean? Like there's not like that is the main thing. There's just so many other things where sometimes it can get hard to understand like what the actual thing is. And I feel like today for me was this like really interesting like space where I don't know what the fuck it was. Like I just understood that like bro, like this was the thing. Like this is the I don't know, like I am where people work to get. Like people work their whole lives and they finally get here and like I'm here. I feel like I've constantly been in that space, but I didn't realize that like I didn't realize like how many other people were like looking to me to be like in the space. You know what I mean? I just took everything for granted. And I feel like right now I'm in a space where I don't take that for granted anymore. Like I realize wholeheartedly that like my position, other people want to occupy it, and like if I cross the line, I will be replaced. As in like because like my place in society is a space that is coveted and like other people will gladly occupy it. But like I am occupying it right now. Like right now, whether you like it or not, I'm occupying the space. Maybe you think it's nothing, maybe you think it's everything. I don't know how you feel, but I'm just saying like currently in this moment in time, I am occupying this particular space. It is not like the bottom of the barrel or the top of the food chain, but it's like it's a real space. And I feel like everyone actually has that, but so many other people are just like glossing it over like it's nothing. And I feel like where I've been in the past 3 years has not enabled me to take that for granted, because I've been in places where I feel like I was in a much more privileged space, but I just didn't like I didn't appreciate it. And I've been in much weaker spaces where I also didn't appreciate it. Like all the spaces that I was in and before now, I just didn't really take them seriously. They all felt like they were replaceable. They all felt like they weren't, not that they weren't real, but kind of like, it was like, oh, fuck it. Like if I just go somewhere else, it'll be the same. And I honestly feel like right now, I literally see the people. I see, like, every day I get emails from people who want my job. Like, quite literally, people who want to occupy the space that I occupy right now. And I know that they, like, are coming, gunning for my space. And it, like, I'm not even, the sad part about it is, like, I'm not doing that well. So for you to try to occupy this space that is, like, at place 1, it's like this isn't even place 20. Like I've occupied space 30. Right now I'm at like space 1. So to see people gunning for space 1 is kind of nuts, because it's like, damn, like you would assume that there would be more people gunning for space 30, but that's not true. Most people can't gun for Space 30 because they don't have like the qualifications to be taken seriously in Space 30. So even in Space 1, like, not even in a joking way, but there are like qualifications. Like, every human alive doesn't qualify to do it. This is, and I'm literally showcasing to you guys space number 1. This is not like space number 2 or 5 or 10 or like 10 years in. This is like the space that you can occupy without any education, without any like real experience. Like, well, this is space number 1, and for it to be this many people who are gunning for space number 1, it makes me feel a little bit sad, because it's like, there should be more people gunning for space number 30, you know, where there's like you guys have been alive for longer, so you should have more skills. The fact that you don't kind of makes me a little bit sad, and then it also makes me feel really strange, because I feel like I didn't understand the space that I occupied like last year. Like, last year was such a weird ass year, because I was just doing shit without understanding what it meant or like where it was, or I wasn't really occupying a space in society. I was just like crossing through genres, crossing through class, crossing through culture, crossing through race, because I was like, well, you know, I'm just gonna like take society as it comes to me. That isn't a good idea. I mean, I would really encourage you to watch Kim Foster's video about, it's basically hypergamy, and like, you know, also To My Sisters has a good video about dating people who actually have earned a place in society. This is just men who've like made something of themselves in society. Like, it just doesn't require that much to like take your job seriously and just realize it's not really that big of a deal. It's simply that like, if you are doing something in society, in regular society, you realize that the regular people in the real world see you, and they see your space as some space of respectability. There are some people who are below you, and there's some people who are above you, and that you occupy a space, and like, you are replaceable. And if you fail too hard, you will be replaced. And like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to you have to do your job. And like that, I feel like I see that in a very real way right now. Whereas before, I didn't really see that. I kind of felt like, oh, let me just like try all the shit. That's not really that smart, because like, you do need to kind of like understand your surroundings. Like, you need to wake up and look right and left and realize like who's below you and who's behind you, because like every day that you're alive, you do get a little bit further ahead. And that's how it's supposed to be. Like, as you get older, you're supposed to learn these lessons that like make it so that you do your job better than you did the day before, and that like you get further in society because you were there longer. Like, because you were there longer is in society supposed to mean something. I just feel like so many people have been living in the underworld for so long, they don't understand that like, just the fact that they're there longer means that like they gather more skills because they're like in the space longer. And that's something that I feel like I'm starting to understand, and I wish that other people like put voice to that. Like, let's just say like in the restaurant industry, for instance, like, you might start not knowing shit about the restaurant industry, right? And people might just feel like, okay, you have a good personality, so I'll give you a job as a host. As a host, you don't really do much shit. You just like look at the reservations, the names of people who are coming into the restaurant, how many people are in their party, where they're gonna sit. That's it. You like bring them water, and that's it. Like, it's like a really basic first step. You're not a server yet making massive tips. You're not a bartender. None of the like occupations that like are really integral to like the main society, but like you're still there, and so you like understand the other stuff that's like going on in the space. And I feel like it's like that in all the jobs too, and for some reason we've like brushed over that. Like we've tried to make it seem like the things that are the interim steps, like the steps to get to where you need to be, like they don't mean anything. And that's just not true, because they do mean stuff. And like there just are steps. There are steps, and an important part of the steps is like other people getting accustomed to you being in the steps. Whatever that means, like if that means that you're like purple, or you're like green or something, or you're like orange, and they've never seen an orange person with whatever they personally identify an orange person to be in the space, and they're like, oh my god, okay, so now this is what it looks like for an orange person to be in the space, because they've never seen an orange person in the space. And it's also new, and it's kind of weird, right? But it's also real. It's kind of like, we can't deny that the people who are walking the runways right now are the models. Like, you can kind of feel how you feel about who should be the pretty people in society, and who should be getting shit, and who should have things. But the reality is, like, the people who are walking the runway right now, like somebody who is in charge of fashion has said, you, as you are right now, you are attractive enough to walk the runway, and you are the person whose like body type is acceptable, and I want you to like be the face and the body of this brand. And that's real. And so there are going to be other people who look and say, no, this is not acceptable, I don't want you to be the face of blah blah blah. That's real. And there's always going to be that people, like those people. Like, I can sit here and say all the things that I want to say about Anita, but the matter of the fact is, like, Anita was just doing something with Vogue like yesterday, so I can think she's as unattractive as I want to say. The fact is, though, she still did something with Vogue like 3 days ago, so I can think she's ugly and she can still be on something Vogue, right? So in the same way, people can be like, I hate Olivia, she's so blah blah blah, and I still get all the things that I get. I'm just trying to show you guys, like, even though people are sitting here saying all these things, you can't do this, you can't do that, this doesn't mean this doesn't mean that, all of these things, like, no, you can't have this because you said that, you can't do this because blah blah blah. Like, whatever the other people are saying, all I'm saying is that it's not like concrete in terms of like who you are in society and who you are in reality. And I also think that it's really important for more people to like occupy step one. You know what I'm saying? Like, step one is like you know how Drake made that little song where he's like, I'm YMCB and you're YMCA. Well, some of you guys haven't yet occupied the YMCA space, and the YMCA doesn't actually hire everybody. Like, to be a child care provider at the YMCA, you still have to have a certain amount of credentials and schooling to like teach the children who are in ages 0 through 5. And many of you don't even have that basic credential, so you can't even do that job. So maybe, as much as you might be shitting on how simple that job is and how easy it is and how, you know, whatever it means to like get that particular credential, the fact is you don't have it. Now, if you do have it and you have done the job and you're like shitting on it after you have it, well, that's a different thing. But that's just not the case for most people. For most people, the reality is, like, they're criticizing things that they don't have. And that doesn't make sense. It only makes sense for you to criticize things that you have. Like, if you have a Rolex and you're sitting here talking about, like, Rolexes aren't meaningful, like, okay. But if you don't even have a Rolex yet, you're not in the space where you can be like criticizing the other people who have a Rolex. Like, you don't have a Rolex yet to be making that sort of criticism. And that's very strange. Like, have a Rolex and then criticize the other people who have the Rolex. And you're like, okay, now that I've earned it, now that I've seen it for myself, I'm now saying that it doesn't mean anything. But you can't be the person who, like, doesn't have it, hasn't deserved it, wasn't gifted it, never saw it, and then be the person who's like, I think that this Rolex is bad. Like, if you have a Rolex or you have had a Rolex in the past, you will have to be able to tell some sort of story of how there was someone who was rich enough to gift you the Rolex, or you had to work hard enough or be rich enough in some sort of position to be able to attain that, to understand how it does have no value. But if you have anything in your hand or any experience in your reality and you're simply criticizing it as in terms of like, this means nothing, especially when you personally have not earned it, that doesn't make any sense. Go earn the things that you're criticizing and then criticize them. But you can't have an opinion on something that you haven't earned. I don't even think it actually means anything to criticize something at this point that someone is gifted to you. Because if they've gifted it to you and you don't understand what that gift means, like, gifts, no matter how rich someone is, if they pay their money for something for you, there's someone else in society who's going to be willing to work day and night, hour by hour, to get that same thing that has a monetary value, okay, that you did not have to work for. So the fact that, like, you didn't have to work for it and therefore you provide no value to it, that doesn't take away the value that someone else has, like, earned for that same thing. And I think that's just really important, because there's, like, so many people who everybody just believes that, like, having an iPhone is, like, a basic part of reality. But the reality is, most people in the world don't have iPhones. Most people in the world cannot spend $50 for dinner every night. The reality is, most people are not eating sushi and beer and champagne every night. So you can sit here and look at me and be like, oh, she's so basic, but it's like, compared to what? What are you comparing me to? Because even if you're comparing me to most women in the Bay Area, they're not drinking champagne and eating sushi every night. That's just the reality. I am. You see me doing it every night. So you can have your opinions about it, and you can say, oh, she's bougie. Oh, she's blah, blah, blah. Oh, she's insert whatever here. But the reality is, in order for you to have an opinion about it, first go do it. Like, go do it yourself. Why don't you go take yourself to $60 sushi dinners every night, 7 days a week, okay? Eat the meal 7 days a week. Because what that means is, like, if you're actually doing that, that means now you don't have to cook that dinner. You don't have to do those dishes. You don't have to clean up after those people. You literally just go to the restaurant and then you leave. And whatever you left, you didn't eat, or you did eat, or whatever. But it's over. Like, as soon as you leave the restaurant, that's it. There's no more concern about it. Like, you don't need to think about it. You don't need to have second thoughts about it. It's over. Is that the situation for you? If you're going home and you're cooking an elaborate meal that you spend 3 hours on, sauteing the garlic, sauteing the onions, preparing the meat, buying the meat, standing in line at the grocery store, if you're doing all that shit and it's taking you 4 hours, and then you finally get a meal, and then you finally get a beer, and then you already spent like $30 or something, and you're feeding 4 people, the fact is, like, yes, 4 people might have come out with an experience in terms of the deliciousness of the meal. Like, they had a meal that was as delicious as mine, but it's not the same.